Hello, everybody, and welcome to my kitchen. I'm Dr. Ritamarie Scalzo, and I'm so excited to have you here. It's my favorite place to experiment, and I love experimenting with foods so that we can make foods that used to be our favorite, crave, addictive foods into things that become healthy for us, nutritious for us, and still taste really good. So today is, I think, almost everybody's favorite is cheese. So how do you make cheese that's not full of dairy with bovine growth hormone and various and sundry preservatives and additives? How do you do that? We're going to teach you today. So I've got a lot of things planned and I'm super excited. I want to make sure everybody's seeing and hearing. Is that the case? Yes? Yes? Okay, good. Good. So all of the recipes here are going to be, for those of you who are in our vital health community, you'll get the edited version of the video within a couple of weeks along with the recipe guide. And you get to keep it forever, you get to download it, etc. Those of you who are not in our community, this replay will be available for a limited time for 2 or 3 days. And then it will go into the library for our members. So if you want to become a member, we'd love to have you as a member. vitalhealthcommunity.com, and you'll have access to some previous months, some future months, and a bunch of other resources like calls about various health topics and Q&A with me once a month. Q&A with me or one of my certified nutritional endocrinology practitioners. So I want to talk about cheese because it's always been my favorite, and even this stuff is addictive for me as well. There's different kinds of cheeses, and we're going to go through different kinds. And I'm going to take out my little handy-dandy note sheet and go through that with you. We're going to start with some creamy cheeses. Those are the easiest ones to make. You can make them instantly. You can make them fermented or non-fermented, and I'll show you how to do both. We're going to make some cheese that you can spread on, like Parmesan cheese. We're going to show you how to make that. There are brands out there that make it in a way that's dairy-free with walnuts and hemp seeds and all, but they are fairly expensive, and you can make it very inexpensively and keep it in a jar in your refrigerator at home. We're going to make block cheeses, and the block cheeses are the most tricky, but we're going to show you how to make them fairly simply. You can make them fermented, which is my favorite way, and I'm going to demonstrate that. Or you can make them non-fermented, and you can add thickeners to them, so natural thickeners. So there's a lot of books out there that use agar, which is a natural thickener, don't get me wrong, but it's tricky to work with. You have to stir it constantly until it starts to thicken. Then you have to add the contents and keep stirring it to make sure that it's just too much work for me, quite frankly, maybe too much work for you as well. So I'm going to show you how to make it with other alternative thickeners, and we're going to start the show with talking about thickeners. And I'm going to show you how to continue to make some of the stuff I started yesterday. We're going to make a cheddar, which is a block cheese, but I just have it as a separate one. We're going to make a Swiss cheese. And if we have time, we'll actually make a blue cheese with a new recipe that I have never made before, but I took it, I altered it a little bit, and I think we can make it work. So what I want to start with is talking about thickeners for the block cheeses. And Irish moss, which kind of looks like this to start out, is a sea vegetable, clearly, right? It still has some greens from the sea and all. It's been dried on the beach, so it gets bleached on the beach, so it gets bleached. And here's what it looks like. And what I did was I soaked it, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you so we have it ready for all of our recipes. I blended it with water. This one's a little thicker than I usually make it, but I'm glad because some of the cheeses mixtures I'm going to make are a little thin. So, but don't get fooled into getting the powdered Irish moss or carrageenan, which is extracted from the Irish moss, because it's not as good for your belly. There's been several problems. When you read about it, some people are saying even this kind of Irish moss. I don't think that when you take this whole seaweed and you soak it and then you blend it and you make a paste, that it's going to clog up your intestines if you do it right. So, but if you don't want to use Irish moss, there's other alternatives. I'll show you how to make this paste in a moment. Here's one of our new kids on the block. This is konjac, and look how thick that got. So this is going to really help to block and make some of these cheeses that are liquidy into a block cheese. And in general, you just have to add the konjac straight to it, right? Straight to the unit. You don't have to blend it like you do with the Irish moss, because I can't add that to my recipe. It's kind of weird, right? So I blend it. But with the konjac comes as a powder. And so I can just add the powder to it. But know that you have to have enough liquid. Otherwise, it'll turn into a brick, not a solid. So this was made with 1 tablespoon of konjac root powder and a cup of water. Look how much that made. So it goes a long way. So we're going to experiment with this. I haven't made cheese with it before. And then there's some other things that have some color to them, so they may color your cheeses. So if you're doing a cheddar, you can use some of these colored thickeners, but if you're doing something that's like a white block, you wouldn't want to do that. This is flax seeds that were already ground, and you can just turn that in. And then this is actually sunflower lecithin. This was 2 tablespoons with half a cup of water. No, I forget. Okay, so that makes a nice gel-like thing, but it's got some color, so you want to, be careful you don't add it to a white cheese and wonder why it's not. Then if you're doing the darker cheeses, then you can do, this is just chia. Everybody's seen that before, chia blended, but this was ground chia, and ground chia has lost a lot of its ability to take on water, because I had the same amount of chia, whole seeds, with the ground chia with the same amount of water, and then I doubled it, and I still have this liquidy thing. So it can still thicken things up, but it's not going to brick it. I don't recommend using whole flax like this because it's going to have pieces in there, but you could take this and you could blend it if you want. So, so I show you all these variations because some people have sensitivities and allergies or preferences not to use certain ingredients. This is actually just psyllium husk. And even though it has this darkness to it there, it actually doesn't generally darken up the recipes. Again, usually like the konjac, I don't make a gel from it, but I wanted to show you, and I wanted to actually experiment and compare for myself how these different things gelled up. And it gels up really nicely. Right? So I'm going to show you how to make the basic cheese. I'm going to make a few using a couple of varieties, but no, it's a mix and match, right? It's kind of like a wardrobe when you get several tops that go with several bottoms. And if you have 3 tops and 3 bottoms, you can end up with not 3 outfits, but 9 or 10 or 12 or whatever, however you want to put them together. And there's a specific math formula we learned in high school for doing that. I learned it in college too because I was a math major, but I have to sit down and remember it. So that's the story with the block cheeses. And if you have questions as we go along, please put them in there. And Scott, as people have questions, even if some of the questions have been answered on the chat, I would appreciate hearing them, or comments too. So we're going to use the blender, and I need the other one too, so I'll be using all of them. So I'm going to take the blender, and I'm just going to start by making this into the Irish moss gel. Kind of set it in the refrigerator to set for a bit. And the reason I'm looking for alternatives to the Irish moss is that the Irish moss it's tricky to work with. You have to first soak it overnight, and then you have to rinse it off, and then you have to blend it, and then it needs to set for a little bit. So you have to be thinking in advance about it. Whereas look at good old konjac. Didn't have to do anything to it. You just actually pour the powder in. So what I would love is a strainer and a bowl to go under the strainer so I can rinse this off, and actually I'll show you what we do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this into the strainer. I'm going to let it drain into a bowl, and then I'm going to do some extra rinsing just in case there were, snails or other kind of sea critters that got, stuck in there. And some people might have heard that and go, okay, forget the Irish moss, don't want to use it. Let me do something else, right? Because it's sand, and right when you first do it, there's a lot of rinsing that has to do, right? So I'm going to let that go. I'm going to go over to the sink. I don't know if you can see me at the sink, but basically at the sink, what I'm going to do is just rinse it really well. Because anyway, you can turn the camera towards me. You can see it. The beauty of having a camera that moves. So I'm just rinsing it real well to make sure I get all the grit and sand and whatever off. Put it back over the bowl to strain it. I'll dry my hands. And if there's these little green, there's like a green piece, probably is some other kind of seaweed on it. I'm going to put this in here. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is add water. The rule of thumb, this is how I made this, but if you want to make it thinner, you can, is I started with a cup of Irish moss. So I'm going to add a cup of water. Okay. So I'm going to take my water. Take my water. We'll go for about a cup. These are the kinds of things where I do measure more. I don't usually measure quite as vigorously as maybe I should, but I usually measure more with this. Whoops, I missed a piece of seaweed. There we go. There's some other kind, maybe kelp stuck on it. You know, it's really not a bad thing. It's just bonus nutrients. Just think of it that way. Okay, I'm going to put the cup. If you find that after you do it, it's a little bit thicker than you want, you can make it a little thinner. So I'm going to just add a little pinch more since that first batch was a little thicker. And it could have been that I mismeasured too. All right. It takes a while. That wasn't good. All right, the cover wasn't on well, and I went to grab it, and I knocked it off kilter. I didn't rub it.
No, I don't think you did.
Okay, so we're going to put the cover on properly, or else it squirts all over the place. Lesson from that is keep your hand on the lid as you go to high and make sure it's not leaking before you walk away. Did you hear when it shifted? I don't know if anybody heard that, but it shifted to being like this. Pew, pew, pew. It's still chopping things up, and then suddenly it had a softer sound to it. Let it go a little bit. We just don't want chunks in there. We don't want pieces. And yeah, there. Now it looks really sweet and smooth. See? And so the next thing we're going to do is, if you can find just a bowl, any bowl, stick it in the fridge until we're ready to use it later.
Oh, okay.
Because I think I need like more than I have here for the recipes that we have planned. All right, good?
Yeah, Heidi asked if Irish moss is safe. Of course it is. And can you consume large amounts?
Yeah, so I just got finished saying that at the beginning, maybe came in late, but the powdered Irish moss is not. Because with the powder, you when you add water, you still have pieces that can absorb more water. The reason we use Irish moss the way we do is that it absorbs as much water as it can by soaking it overnight, and then you blend it up and you make it into this really gooey paste. So the problems with it has been like little bits and pieces of it getting caught in the intestinal lining. I know there's a lot of talk about carrageenan, and well, if carrageenan comes from Irish moss, is Irish moss then safe? My personal opinion is it is, and I will continue to use it. In terms of consuming large amounts, we generally don't consume large amounts, right? We use a small amount of it to make a batch of cheese or to make a cheesecake or to make something. So it's not like you're sitting down and eating a bowl of Irish moss like you would kale. All right, so that's my feeling about it. But if you don't want to use Irish moss, if you're concerned, the konjac is a great alternative because you'll see it makes a really nice gel, and we'll use this in one of the recipes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start where I'm going to go back and do it in the order here. It doesn't really matter what order I do it in, but I'm going to start with my creamy cheeses. I just wanted to do the Irish moss at the beginning so we could put it in the fridge to set. So we're going to make queso. And I know that whenever we go out to dinner with my son and his girlfriend, they always like to order queso. They love queso. So when I was talking to her the other day and I told her we were making this cheese class and now I was going to be making a vegan queso, her ears perked up. She was like, I'd love to have that. But she was going to try to be here, but she couldn't. So in honor of her and all of you who love queso, I'm going to make this. I'm going to make it a little bit differently. I need to open that thing open. Please. All right. So if I was just going to make my normal, cheddar-y looking cheese, I'm just going to make this so that it has more of a body to it. So I'm starting with a red bell pepper. I start by putting my red bell pepper into the blender. And honestly, if you have a Vitamix or a Heat, you don't even have to add water. But you do need your handy-dandy blender. Now, if you tend to be sensitive to nightshades and don't want to use red bell pepper, you can probably use zucchini in here and then use something red, to make it like a little bit of maybe beet juice or something if you want that color. But if you are allergic to nightshades, you probably don't eat queso and have an addiction to queso anyway because you don't eat it because it's full of nightshades. So.
What's the taste of conjure?
It's pretty bland. It doesn't really have a taste.
Like no taste.
Yeah. All right. So I got this pretty blended, right? And next, it's like kind of a liquid base. And I'm going to add some nuts or seeds. So we had a lot of requests from people, as we mentioned this, most of the non-dairy cheeses I see use nuts and I'm allergic to nuts. Great. I'm going to do all kinds of alternatives. Someone had asked, well, I'm not allergic to cashews and almonds. Great. Substitute cashews and almond for every recipe that has nuts in here or substitute seeds. So I'm going to give you several recipes that have seeds. Okay, so if you're sensitive to nuts, in this particular case, we're going to use walnuts. You can substitute any nut you want, really, especially this one because it has color to it. If you're looking for a white cheese, like sour cream, you need to find white nuts or seeds. So I'm going to put in a cup of walnuts. Sprouted walnuts. So these are already sprouted. I also have some soaking because I'm almost out of sprouted ones. And I'll measure for the sake of measuring. And how much water should I put in? I think I'll start with a half a cup. Start small, work your way up, because we're going to add something liquidy, which you're going to be surprised at. And I'll show you in a moment. And the sound was, I still felt like there were some nuts in there. Okay. We could stop there if we wanted to. I'll taste a little. It's quite yummy to me. We can stop there. We can add a little salt. We can add a little lemon. And I'm going to let you guys, if you get a little tasters, I'm going to let you guys taste it so you can taste the difference but we're going to experiment today. So one way of doing this is just a red bell pepper, nuts or seeds of your choice, and water. We're going to actually make this a little bit less nutty, less fatty. Just try it and see what you think. Yeah, so and just remember that taste, or save it for when we finish, and then you can compare it to the finished product. So that's one recipe. So now you have one recipe. Next, I'm gonna add a little lemon juice, and at this point, maybe a tablespoon. It doesn't have salt in it yet.
It's a little bland.
Yeah, right. Then we're gonna jack it up.
Yeah, the lemon be
A
good.
lot bland.
I'm gonna put lemon. So the next piece would be to put some lemon and salt. And my salt was here. We'll put, maybe a quarter teaspoon. I hate measuring. It's just against my religion. All right. So I'm going to blend it again with the lemon and salt. Now, if you're allergic to lemons, apple cider vinegar or anything like that, ume vinegar, something that has a tart taste. Taste it. Pretty good. Okay. Anybody want to taste this? I'll just taste a little bit. You can just taste and compare. And then we're going to add my secret ingredient. Okay.
Better. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now. Okay. So in terms of cauliflower, this is about a quarter of a cauliflower. It's been lightly steamed in the Instapot. You can do it on the stove however you want, but my stove is clearly covered up. Okay, we're gonna blend that up. We can add water if we need. We may not because the cauliflower has. Okay, so it looks like it got lighter, right? Paprika. Very little taste, very bright color. A little bit of turmeric, right? Turmeric does have a taste, so you have to be careful. Let me get my paprika. And I'm going to put, what is that? That's a quarter teaspoon. Let's just see what that does to the color and the flavor. And I'm wearing a top that is full of orange.
Good thing.
Okay. I can add more paprika. Probably add up to a teaspoon of paprika because it didn't change the flavor. But now we taste the cauliflower a little bit more. You could put zucchini instead of cauliflower. So just so you know, if you wanted to. Now, what we're going to do is queso usually has some kind of ting to it, right? It has chipotle or it has a cayenne, right? So we're going to season that up. So let's go for, I think I took the chipotle out. Chipotle. Okay. Chipotle is strong, so go for your flavor. I like it a lot. I'm going to put a half a teaspoon in.
If you added zucchini, would you peel them?
You could or you don't have to though. Because think about it, it's You could change the color, so that's the thing. So you may want to. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little cayenne. Now, cayenne's not these things that you put on, like you put like 1/8 of a teaspoon or something like that. So I usually just do a pinch of cayenne, right? And then you can add more to flavor. If you don't like spicy, don't add it. I think it's a little misleading to call this recipe queso because everything we're making today is queso because queso means cheese in Spanish. But this is what they usually serve when you order it at a Mexican restaurant. All right, let's see what it tastes like now. I think it needs a little bit more salt because we only put 1/4 teaspoon in. We need a little more. So let's make it 1/2 teaspoon total. Again, salt is always to taste and you can always leave it out. I'm going to put a little bit more lemon juice. I'm going to put a 2nd tablespoon of lemon juice. Pretty?
Yes.
Thick enough, thin enough? Those of you who are queso fans? Is this the consistency? Because you're going to be dipping like chips and stuff in it. Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to taste it before I let my lovely, this is
Hot.
no, it's good. Maybe a little more cayenne than some people would like, but oh my God, it's just right up my alley.
Woohoo!
Try it. Just go light. Don't eat that whole big batch all at once. Typically, you'd be dipping.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think?
Yum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yum.
A little bit. Yeah. So go, cayenne to taste, just a little pinch. So, summary, red bell pepper, 1 red bell pepper, a cup of walnuts, 1/2 cup of water, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1/4 of a cooked whole cauliflower head, 1/4 of that, a pinch of cayenne to taste, teaspoon of chipotle, and as I say, salt, write down salt. All right, we're going to move on.
Yay, that was wonderful.
And paprika.
And paprika for color, right? Right? As much paprika as you want. I did a teaspoon.
That's worthy.
Okay, so then you sit down with that. You make your jicama chips. You get some flax cracker chips, cucumbers as chips, red bell pepper slices. Any kind of veggie makes a good chip. And now you have a really healthy version of Mexican queso. That's got cruciferous vegetables in it. And we should all be eating a lot of cruciferous vegetables every day. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that worked.
Yeah.
We made this one up on the fly. Okay, so I'm going to get another blender. And there should be the 3rd one too that I used earlier as well. So if you don't mind, just keep putting them back because we use blenders a lot today. I want to make a cream cheese. A cream cheese. Ideally, I like to make it with macadamia nuts, but we've been out of macadamia nuts for a little bit. So, and then of course there's somebody who asked about that nut-free recipe. So I'm going to make this with sunflower seeds. All right, sunflower seeds. We'll see. It might be I may have to adjust the variations of the stuff that I'm putting in to overcome the slightly stronger taste of sunflower seeds. You could use cashews. You could use pine nuts. Those are both white as well. All right, so let's see. It may come out gray. So that's the downside of using the sunflower seeds. It may come out a little gray, but I'm going to do that for the sake of, I think it was Barbara who posted on one of the sites and said, but I'm allergic to all your nuts. Anyway, know that we could use pine nuts, macadamia nuts, or cashews. So so what I did was I soaked the sunflower seeds. Now they're plumped up, not for too long. It was for about 4 hours. And if I can, yeah, the Irish moss is out. So what I'm going to do is, hopefully that's big enough bowl. So there it is. Just make sure you get all those little seeds out of there. Cool. Most of them anyway. Now, one of the reasons for soaking them too, you see how brown the water got, or grayish? I don't know if you can see that real well. But that's some enzyme inhibitors and other things, and now we've gotten that out of there. So we don't have the color to mess up our cheese, our cream cheese. But it is still going to be kind of a beigeish or grayish rather than white. So you could easily substitute. I'm going to rinse them. I always like to rinse the nuts after I've done this. Just to get off any traces of the enzyme inhibitors and any dirt and debris that might be sitting on them from being on the shelf. I don't know if you guys can hear me when I walk over there. You certainly can't see me because it would be good to get the camera moved over as I do things at the sink. All right, so we're going to start with a cup of sunflower seeds. Put in the big blender now. And if you want to double this, it's easy to double. Oh, and would you mind, Pam, going in the fridge? There are a couple of cheeses, Kite Hill cheeses in there. I just want to show them options. Yeah. I mean, you can buy this stuff. So the creamy cheeses, the Kite Hill, this is their almond cream cheese spread. This is the chive flavor. My favorite is the jalapeno. And what I do with this is I scoop some of that out and put it on celery sticks or red bell pepper and have that was my dinner or lunch. I can't remember. One of my meals yesterday was that. So you can buy this at health food stores. It depends on where you live. If you don't live in a big metropolitan area, if you live in a small town in Nowheresville, But you can see if there's places you can order them online. Kite Hill also has this regatta, and they're both made with almonds. So if you're allergic to almonds, you do have to make your own. They used to have a hard cheese, block cheese, like we're going to make later. My husband went all over town yesterday trying to find it so we could show you an example. And
That's tree line.
Tree line, but Kite Hill also has it. They had one that was a brie-like. Anyway, so you can see what that looks like, and that's the consistently. Leave that out so I can compare the consistency. I've never made it with sunflower seeds before. I've always made it with mac nuts or others. So I'm going to put a little bit of water, not a whole cup, maybe 3/4. I'm actually going to start with a half because you can always thin it. You can't thin it. Well, you can thicken it and just add more nuts. And I'm going to add a little nutritional yeast, although that's an optional. Some people don't like nutritional yeast. I'll start with the salt, and we'll add the nutritional yeast last. Put about a quarter teaspoon of salt in there. Miso works really well in this recipe to kind of give it a little flavor. So since we've already got it being discolored, we're going to make this cream cheese. It's going to be a kind of cold. So we're going to make like a teaspoon of miso paste. This one is a soy-free, grain-free. It's just chickpea miso. I like that one. So, and that gives it a little extra, critters for your gut and stuff like that. What else do I have in here? Yeah, so we'll do that, and then I'm going to add some konjac to that to make it feel a little thicker, like the cream cheese consistency. And when I'm done, I'll make a quick white cheese for you so you can see the difference. difference. All right, so I'm putting in a little more water. I'm gonna put a half. This is more like a 3/4. Note that any of these cheeses, like even the queso, I could have put some probiotic powder in. I could have let it sit 24 hours to ferment and made it a fermented queso, right? So you can do that with any of these cheeses. It's still not enough water, so I'm going to put just a tiny bit more. So it looks like it's a cup of sunflower to a cup, which is what I'd written down, but I was kind of afraid to go all the way to the cup. So it's thick now, but it's like a fibrous-y thick, not like that gooey thick like a cream cheese usually is. But it's got that consistency, right? But the difference see that it doesn't. It's a thicker and so I'm gonna add the konjac to give it that flavor. Can't waste it.
As an aside, Mayari, says she likes to use the Instant Pot for yogurt.
I've never used it for yogurt, and I know a lot of people do. So yeah, someday I'll give that a try.
So Dot asks, can someone do a short presentation how to organize your kitchen for this way of eating, storage ideas, etc.? Most kitchens.
I have a
kinda
beautiful presentation. It's in our Energy Recharge Inner Circle. If there's enough requests for it, we can make it available as a product. It was a big production, and I went through a whole day in my kitchen. I went through all the different areas and showed you how to. It was called the Pantry Makeover. So if that's something you're interested in, you can either join our Energy Recharge Inner Circle, and you'll have access to that. And if you're in our Energy Recharge Inner Circle, you do have access to that. It was probably a 5-hour presentation, and it took all day and then a lot of editing to put it out there. But if there's enough interest, we might be able to make it available as a product. We can't give it away for free, though. All right. So I want to show you what konjac looks like. It's powder. It's real easy. So you saw what it did here. There's 2 ways I can do this now. I could just experiment and try like a big tablespoon. Let's try that. I'm going to try a tablespoon of the konjac that's already been soaked. Typically, I would put like a very tiny bit, like 1/8 of a teaspoon of konjac in there. Considering that whole thing was a tablespoon with water, it's very little. It doesn't take much. So let's try it that way because it just gives it that nice, it's almost a glistening that a cream cheese has that other cheeses don't. And it usually takes a few minutes for the konjac to integrate. And what kind would you want? I love the jalapeno, but chive is. Didn't we have some fresh chives?
Mm-hmm.
Can you pull chives out of the left drawer? Top.
It's the same as the dill.
And it needs. I'm gonna say it needs a tablespoon of lemon.
It's a little box.
Maybe it's out already. Oh. Tablespoon of lemon. And a little more salt. I always say add a little bit of salt at the beginning, and then can you get me one of those little bowls again? A little bit of salt at the beginning, and then add your salt to taste because everybody's a little bit different. Okay. So Like I said, I've never made it with sunflower seeds before, and it's taking just a little bit of It looks different, that book. It's not chocolate. It has more of that. And I will say, sunflower seeds are strong. So play around with it. If you like cayenne, that would give it a flavor and it would cover up a little bit. And also the thing that covers up a little bit of the bitterness and strong is the lemon. So I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of lemon instead of the 1. And it has that thicker feeling to it. So what you can do at this point is we can put it in a bowl. And then what do you want it to taste like? You could put turmeric, you could put dill, you could put jalapeno, you could put chives. And it's not too far off color-wise, right? It's just, a little beige rather than white, like it would be for macadamia. Okay, so I'm going to leave the rest of it. I'll just take it out in a minute. But we can take some chives. Take my little cutting board. Chop up a few chives.
Oh, so you don't blend it in.
No, if you blend it in, it's going to turn green.
Ah.
And garlic would be good too. So put the chives in. We can put a little bit of garlic powder. Stir that in. It smells good. You do as much as you want. I'm just going to stop there so we can move on, but I will probably put more chives for sure. Pinch more salt. Pinch more lemon. This is how I make stuff, guys. Again, it's because of the strong flavor of sunflower versus macadamia.
Would you use cashews though?
Cashews or macadamia or pine nut would be the choice. Now it's good. You just play with it. Add a little bit more salt if you want. Add a little bit more. I'm going to avoid adding the cayenne, but that's what I would add to it. And now it's gotten a little thinner because I added extra liquid. So I would just take a little bit of my konjac powder, which was here.
Oh, powder.
Thank you. And I literally use that much. Pinch. True pinch. And then we'll let it sit and we can come back and look at it later. If you guys can just, thank you. Okay. Any questions on that? We can come back to the creamy cheeses later. I just want to move on to make the Parmesan and then make the black cheeses, which is where the fun comes in. Thank you. Whew. Make some room. How's everybody doing so far? Okay, so let's make some Parma. Okay. You can go in the fridge there on the right-hand side of the door. In the door, there's Parma on the second shelf. Back, get the other one, the back one too. That one. These are delicious. I highly recommend them. I endorse them. I buy them all the time. They sponsor our event. They give us samples. And they're pricey. So if you want to make your own, I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay? All right.
What
so
are
what I
they?
need. So it's Parmesan cheese called Parma. And it's a combination of nutritional yeast and nuts and seeds. So this particular one is, I think it's walnuts and hemp seeds. No, this one's sunflower seeds and walnuts. The other one is hemp seeds. So you can do it either way. So it looks like that. You sprinkle it on food and it makes it taste divine. Or you can eat it out of the jar.
There's more.
Right. I love it on avocado. I sprinkle it on avocado all the time. So if you guys can get me one of these size jars like this, I'm gonna make it in there. So I'm gonna make mine with walnuts. That's what I was gonna save my sprouted walnuts for. And that little blender that we took out, that little coffee grinder thing.
This.
Yeah, there it is. Thank you. This works well in a coffee grinder. Of course, you can use your blender. It's just small amounts and dry nuts and seeds. I like to use the coffee grinder. My coffee grinder broke, so I use this little Blend Tech travel blender. So you're gonna put in ideally we're gonna put in half a cup of walnuts. I ran out of the sprouted already ones. I'm going to use the ones that haven't been. It's best if you do use the ones that are sprouted, soaked and sprouted. It's actually, let's just use a whole cup, just because if we're going to make some, we might as well make a whole batch, right?
Mm-hmm.
They should be dry walnuts though, so if you soak them, then you need to dehydrate them after you do, or else it's going to mess up.
Is there an alternative for nutritional yeast?
Just leave it out. Is this working? That close over there? Yeah. Now you don't want to blend too long or it turns into butter, not butter. Probably some of this already has. Yeah, some of it at the bottom got a little buttery. But push it down. I'm going to put it in a jar. And what I'm going to do is break it up with a fork. Yeah, some of it, I went a little too long. Some of it turned into nut butter. So it's a quick and easy way to make nut butter in your little hand coffee grinder. So I'm just breaking it up. Yeah, this isn't going to be as good as I anticipated because it's a little wet. But I'm going to add hemp seeds, about a cup of hemp seeds, equal amount. Again, it can be chopped up with any kind of seeds. Hemp seeds are high in omega-3, so I like to use hemp seeds. Walnuts are also high in omega-3. So it's going to be nice omega-3 rich.
Those walnuts, the sprouted ones,
Part of it was and part of it wasn't, because I ran out of
they
this
were
one.
really soaked.
Yeah, but if you soak them, you can't use them wet. You have to dehydrate them. Okay, so now space here. Nutrition. I use the Premier Nutrition Flakes. There's probably a number of good brands, but this is the one I've always used, so I use it. And I use about a quarter cup. You'll figure this out yourself. You don't have to have a recipe. You can just, any kind of nut and seed mixed together with nutritional yeast, some salt and flavorings. My favorite of the Parma is the Chipotle Cayenne. Cayenne's over here, right? Yeah. Put a pinch of cayenne. And I'm going to put a generous dollop of chipotle. I'll put some salt. And the reason I'm not measuring here, guys, is it doesn't matter. You're going to find your flavor here. What seasonings do you like? You can make it basil flavored if you want it. So one thing I am going to add that Parma doesn't do is I am going to add a little bit of kelp powder to give it a little extra nutrition. Not so much that it tastes fishy, but maybe a quarter teaspoon.
Did y'all work it out okay? Or do you need a bowl?
No, it's perfect. And now you taste. Yum. It's delicious. I put more cayenne, more chipotle, and again, for you, it's season it to taste. If you like it more yeasty, you put a little bit more. And if you play with this, you're going to come up with a favorite recipe. Keep it in the jar. Keep it in the fridge because the nuts are volatile. Oh, now you have a delicious spread, and you guys are welcome to taste it. If you put too much of something, like I think I put a little too much salt in that one, no worries. Just add more of the other ingredients. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the way. Move this out of the way. Take a sip of water. All right, we're going to make some block cheeses. Who's ready to learn how to make block cheese? I have a bunch of recipes here. We run out of time to make them all. I've made 2 in advance, and we're going to do the finishing parts of it, and then we're going to start one from scratch. And if I have all the recipes written down, so we'll just put them in the recipe guide. So if you're in the Vital community, you'll get the recipe guide with everything in it. And if you're not, you can go to vitalhealthcommunity.com and join for just $19. So, you like it?
Yeah, it's yum.
It's yum. There we go. It's yum. Scott may not because he doesn't like
I'll eat yours.
nutritional yeast. For some reason.
I hope I'll get the recipe from you.
All right. So we talked about the different thickeners for block cheese. That one's done. That one's done. And I'll show you the finishing. So I want to start. Okay. I'm going to show you how I made actually, yeah, let me do it that way. Let's take some of the cashews. 1 cup. I marked on the top how much I put in there so I knew what I started with. And I need the strainer. And it might help if save us time if you guys can grab, just start with all the nuts and I have over here, and then just strain them out and put them back in the same jar, okay, with the same lid, so I know how much is in it. Cashews. We're going to start with cashews in the blender. The general rule of thumb is 1 cup of nut or seed to a half a cup of water, and then 1 teaspoon of probiotic powder. Well, actually, half a teaspoon of probiotic powder. Personally, I like it really tangy, so you can do it even higher. But for the block cheese, it's usually 2 cups. We do 2 cups of nuts, and then we do 1 cup of water, and then we do a 1 teaspoon of the probiotic powder. So that was a cup of cashews. And I'm going to put in, what did I put with that? I actually wanted to make let me see. I'm just going to do again one of the ones I already made, which was cashew.
Which probiotic powder you were using?
Yeah, I'll show you what I'm going to use. Okay. I usually do half cashew, half macadamia. The probiotic powder that I've been using lately is this one, Blue Bonnet. It's a local company. It's very simple. It has a teaspoon of it has about
Can you hold it up?
so 40 billion organisms. I used to use one from Health Force Nutritionals called Friendly Force. They don't make it anymore.
This is what we use when we do the yogurt.
This
at
is
our
what we
events.
use for yogurt and cheese.
We actually buy it for the hotel.
This is what the hotel used.
Well, that's what we gave them.
Okay. You put that in last. So I'm going to put in the nuts. I think I'm going to do this. I've never done it with pine before. Let me taste pine again. Has a sweetness to it, so I'm going to do it. Pine nuts are expensive, so it's a luxury. Put them out of Max. So we buy our Max directly from a grower in Hawaii, and he's been out of stock, or we've been out of stock, not him, and so we have to order some more. All right, so I put 2 cups of nuts, and again, it could be seeds. For the person who is only able to eat cashews and almonds, you could have put cashews and almonds, or you could have put just cashews. Cashew doesn't tend to hold together as well as some of the other nuts, so it's good to have it with combination. And I need the lid for this one, which is the gray one. Nope, this is the black one. It's right here. Nope, that's the big black one.
Where's the little one?
Thank
Oh.
you.
Is that the right one?
Yes, it is. I have this. Thank you. All right. I'm going to show you the beginning, and then voila, we're going to have the second part done. So, could have put hemp seeds in there, could have anything in there. So now I have this. It's creamy, it's smooth, right? I'm going to put my teaspoon of probiotic powder. If you like it tangier, put more probiotics.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that flavor with the pine nut. You just do a quick swirl. The organisms in the probiotic tend to be delicate, so we don't want to go too far. Now, I'm going to show you the next piece, which is critical to the success of your cheese, is you're going to take a strainer or some sort of basket, even the berry baskets, that the net kind of berry baskets or the green ones can be done. Then we're going to take a piece of cheesecloth. I'm going to have to cut this one. I think it's a little bit too big. Yeah. So I'm going to cut this cheesecloth. This was an organic, it looks almost like linen. I'd never seen this one before, but I bought it. The other way you get it is it looks like this. This is natural cheesecloth. Usually it has more holes in it, but I had this one, so I don't know where I got it. But so we're going to line the basket so that it overlaps. I need a flat plate underneath to catch any liquid. These baskets are incredible. By the way. I got these at a local store and they're nested. There's all sizes. If you can find them because they have little ability to stand them up. So now I'm going to pour and a lot of this I learned from Karen Osborne. So credit to Karen. We did a class together on cheese as a live class several years ago. Okay. Whoops. Darn it. All right, so I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to fold the cheesecloth over. I'm going to put something fairly heavy, not overly heavy, on here so that it squishes out any excess liquid. What I used before was, where did it go? I had this big giant sunflower seed protein. And I liked it because it was fairly heavy. Oh, this will work. Okay. So it can be anything. You don't want it to be like a brick, but something that'll give some weight. You place it over like that, and it's going to squeeze any excess liquid out. And then you let it sit 24 to 48 hours, probably closer to 48. And you just put it in a warm place. I put it on my dryer. And the next step this is one that I started last night. It's not quite 24 hours. It's not quite fully fermented. I would really let it go 48, but in lieu of, in sacrifice of doing this for the class, I'm going to show you what this looks like. So there's the basket. When you take this off, you're going to see this gooey cheese. It's a lot more solid than it was when it went in. It does have that little, you want to sniff it? You can smell a little bit that
Yeasty smell.
yeasty. Has a little, yeah, nice. You like that.
Man.
I love that fermented smell.
I could smell it when I was in the
You could, yeah.
dehydrator. Smell like bread.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Okay, so now we're going to take this and put it back in the blender and do the next steps.
Okay.
Here we go. So what you could do, if there's still extra liquid in there, you can pick it up and you can do this and wring it. This one looks like it's pretty liquidated out. And I don't remember what this one was. I'll have to look at the list. I'll tell you. It's on my list. So. Pour it out. Now you're going to have to, it's kind of a messy process doing this.
Yeah, where do we buy that cheese? In the store.
It's not available.
Oh.
It's a rare thing
that's
that
the one
you
you have
find
to make
it.
yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so you just scrape it off the cheesecloth. The cheesecloths can be reused. You just have to wash it. It's definitely thicker. Oh, yummy. Okay, good enough. Put this over here.
Now we're gonna finish.
That was good. That was the Probably the cashew Brazil. There were two I made. One was hemp walnut, one was cashew Brazil. Either way, you'll have the recipe.
I'm not sure where it went.
So we got that far.
Is that the one?
What's that?
That's
That's the other one. All right. So at this point, there's optional things you can do with it. We're definitely going to add the, how come I don't have the Irish moss there? All right, I'll look here. Okay. So at this point, we're going to thicken it with Irish moss. And then we're going to determine what do we want it to taste like. Do we want it to be a garlic herb? Do we want it to be a cayenne? Do we want to have some veggies in there, chives? We can choose whatever we want to do. Do you want to have nutritional yeast in there or not? Optional, totally optional. So I'll make it without. At this point, Karen usually uses Irish moss for hers, and that's what was done. I didn't do it yet. So I'll do one of them with Irish moss, and I'll do the other one with not Irish moss. Where'd my cup go? The recipe calls for a cup of Irish moss, and then we're going to put it in the blender, and we're going to blend it up. At this point, you decide what you want it to taste like. We usually add some salt, usually about a teaspoon. You don't have to. If you're salt sensitive, just substitute other flavorings that you do well. Oops. That's why I don't measure. Salt in. We'll just make it plain this time. You could add herbs and spices and whatever else you want, but we'll just make it plain at this point. You have the salt. We're going to add a half a teaspoon. I'm just going to make this one the way Karen taught me. A half a teaspoon of psyllium powder. And we're going to see how quickly this thickens. It's going to go pretty quickly. And we're going to mold it and shape it. Here we go. All right. What I like to do to shape it, you can shape it however you want. You can use anything to put it in a mold of some sort and just roll it in a ball. I like to use these little guys. They're spring-form pans. You can get them at any baking store, any place that sells baking equipment, any place that has a kitchen, area. Or you can get them online. I've gotten some at Amazon. Now, here what you're going to see me do is use some parchment paper, mainly because I don't like Teflon, and I don't want my food touching it. You don't have to. You can just put it in. It's not going to be touching that long. So I'll basically, how am I going to do this? I'll go like that for the bottom. I usually do this. I can touch them up.
Can you just flip that up? Like this. So So the rim's at the bottom.
Oh, the rim should be. There we go. We'll just put this inside. And we'll still be able to touch the food. So now I'm going to take my cheese. There's so many things you can do with this at this point. You can make 2 layers out of this and make a pesto sauce in between. Quite creamy. Anything you want. I'm just going to do it simply. I don't want to run out of time. And I want to show you how quickly you can get this to set. You push it in. Push it around the edges. I'll just do part of it right now just to get you an idea. I push this down. Yeah, I think I'm going to forego the thing next time. I'll do another one without it. It's only going to be in there for a little bit. Take this, please, and put it in the refrigerator.
Mhm.
We're going to let it set in the refrigerator for probably 5 to 10 minutes is all. We'll make the other half in it without all that hoopla. About trying to avoid Teflon. Yeah. Just go this way. There we go. Helps if you do it right. I'm just going to pour it in the mold. You could just do the waxed paper or parchment right at the bottom. There we go. Still a little more in there. And this is a really nice spatula that is long and it bends well, so it gets under the blades and it helps you to get the stuff out from under the blades. In lieu of time, I won't do the full clean out. I'm going to save it for later. Or do the next batch right in here and it'll get mixed. Okay.
We make a little offset spatula that would be perfect for that. Just that
A little bitty offset.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have a little bitty one, I don't think. It's a good idea. You could just wiggle it around a little bit. You got it in there. And we can put this in the fridge as well and let it set.
You could use a silicone mold as well.
Yeah, that's an idea. And if you wanted to make little cheese guys, you could make them in the little silicone molds and pop them out when you're done. And I have a bigger silicone mold, actually. That's a good idea. What I'll do, I'm going to give it to you guys. You can just scrape out the rest of this and put it in 1 or 2 of those.
Okay.
And then put that in the fridge, then we'll be able to see how that works. Good idea, Scott. Thank you. Okay. So, step by step, that's how you can make it. There's a lot of variations on this. So we could have used, this one used the Irish moss and the psyllium, as Karen taught me to do. But you can substitute any ones you want. I did have one other I wanted to make that has zucchini in it. So this is like for the nut-free people and the low-fat people. So we'll make this one. And I think I'm going to let my other guy, I have another one that I did last night as well. This was the walnut hemp, but it wasn't quite fermented yet. So I'm going to let that one sit for a little bit longer. Yeah. Perfect. I can do that. Oh, which one's this?
We don't know. We weren't sure. We can't find it.
Oh, that was the one that we did for the new cheese that's in the other room. It's fermented.
Okay.
Oh, okay. You need this now,
That could be good. No, I could use that.
like this?
I don't have allergies.
The base cheese was the half cups water and a cup of nuts, and you had a probiotic
And the probiotic.
and lemon, like our cashew cheese.
We just start without that, and then you add that later. Right. So it's just those three ingredients you do, and then you ferment it. This one's going to be zucchini hemp.
Ooh.
How's that sound? Okay. So we're going to start with a half a cup of hemp seeds, which I had here a few minutes ago. Did they get moved? Here we go. Yeah. So we're going to start with a half a cup of hemp seeds. So this is for you guys who don't tolerate nuts, tree nuts.
So the substitute for our sauce was the psyllium.
At the very beginning, we went through about 6 substitutes for Irish moss. We had konjac, which you could just add, and you can make it a gel like this. This was psyllium, which is in all of these, but I just wanted to show everybody how it looks. And then you can do flax, chia. I haven't tried this one yet, and may do that with this recipe because I like the way it looks and I like the nutritional profile. This is sunflower lecithin. Okay, so let's do zucchini hemp. So where are my zucchini? They were here. There they are. They fell down. So I'm going to trim the zucchini, cut them into like 1-inch pieces and stick them in the blender. Zucchinis are really surprisingly creamy. I make ice cream with zucchini. Delicious ice cream, I might add.
Yes.
So we're going to throw all this in the blender. Not sure why I cut the ends off, but I think it's a consistency thing. What else is in here? Okay, so water. A cup of water. If you wanted to substitute some sort of nut milk, hemp milk, or other milk, nut milk or seed milk, you could make it a little denser, but I'm just going to put water. I'm going to put apple cider vinegar. Yeah, this one is not a fermented one. That's why I want to show you how to make a block cheese that's not fermented. So we get instantaneous gratification. So we put about 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. If you don't tolerate apple cider vinegar, substitute lemon juice or lime juice or any other kind of vinegar that you do. I'm going to put in my pumpkin seeds. Half a cup of raw pumpkin seeds. These are dehydrated in advance. I'm going to put some salt. Calls for 1/4 teaspoon. And some nutritional yeast. 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. Again, if you don't like or tolerate nutritional yeast, just leave it out. If you wanted something to have a pungent flavor, you can put a little mustard powder or something like that. Okay, I'm going to blend this. Whoops, wrong cover. Nope. There. There are 3 different sizes in it. It's easy to get confused. it's rather thin at this point, so we're going to thicken it up. I think what I'm going to do is just put this, since I was going to put psyllium anyway, I'm going to put the psyllium that's already been thickened, so it'll thicken quicker. And I think I'm going to use some of this konjac as well. Now, since it's already absorbed a lot of the liquid, maybe I'll put a little bit of the konjac, but it's absorbed a lot of the liquid already, so I may have to add the other. And you can mix thickeners. I'm just going crazy here because I already have these made. I'll add a little bit of the sunflower lecithin. But again, just think about it being a thickener. You can use half a cup or a cup of Irish moss. You can use some psyllium. You can use konjac powder. Just It is. Because there's a lot here, what I'm going to do is pour some of it out, and we're just going to work to thicken the smaller amount, and we'll put it in a mold. So if you can just give me a bowl or yeah, that's good. I don't need that big. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you. So I'm just going to play with it since then. This is actually a big batch of cheese. Probably could have put a lot less water in there. Yeah. All right. So let's take that and let's put a half a cup of this nice thick Irish moss gel. So it's going to thicken it up. That's about right. See, once I get a recipe, I like to play with it and make all kinds of variations. Now, sometimes some of the ingredients you vary with have a little bit different consistency than the first. So you have to alter your amounts of the various extra things that thicken. I'm going to add the half a teaspoon of psyllium. Let's let this sit for about 5 minutes. And if it's still not thick enough, we'll play with the thickeners a little bit more. Okay, so I wanted to show you, the next one I want to show you is Swiss cheese. Everybody loves Swiss cheese. I didn't do the cheddar, did I? The cheddar was the next one. This is very similar. Let's do the Swiss cheese. All right, I need another blender. Yeah, I need another blender, and this will be the last
Big
one.
one or little?
Whatever size we have, don't matter.
Which one? Oh, it's right here.
All right, so this is the last one we'll have time for today. And that, again, those of you in Vital, I'll have the others. I'll have the others in the recipe guide. And if I have time sometime during the week, I'll just like make them and give you a video, an extra video. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this one has cauliflower. I'm going to put 1.5 cups of cooked cauliflower. So this will be the easiest way to measure. Yeah. 1.5 cups of cooked cauliflower. I'm going to put we're going to put a teaspoon, we're going to put a little bit of konjac powder. We'll do that at the end. We're going to put some tahini. It's 2 tablespoons of tahini. Okay, next, some nutritional yeast. Again, if you don't tolerate it, don't like it, leave it out. A lot of people ask if they have, a lot of people say, well, I have a candida overgrowth, can I use nutritional yeast? And you're going to get a lot of mixed opinions. So I don't know what the truth is for you, but what I've found for myself and for others is that there are different species of yeast, so don't worry about it. If you have a sensitivity to nutritional yeast or yeast in general, then you shouldn't. So you can play with it, you can try it, but I don't think it's a universal finding. Miso. I'm going to put a little miso. 2 teaspoons of miso. And any questions that I can answer while I'm doing this?
You put this in the fridge.
A lot of it's on ingredient stuff and then ships out links.
Pinch of salt. This one has some strong flavorings in it, and this is based on a recipe that I varied, but the seasonings I thought I would try because they looked interesting. Coriander. Coriander and a pinch of turmeric. So 1/4 teaspoon of coriander. I think the turmeric is more for color. Coriander is the seed of cilantro.
Oh, then it should be good.
And the other thing, turmeric. Where's my turmeric? I got this really pretty turmeric I had out earlier. Has anybody seen it? I put some turmeric in the first recipe, the queso. Anybody see it? It's a little jar. Turmeric.
It's one of those little jars, isn't it?
No,
It's not out.
it was out. I'll get a different turmeric. I had a little squat jar of turmeric. I'll do it later. It's probably buried underneath something else, but here we go. We'll put a pinch of turmeric, mainly for color.
Oh, that one.
We'll put a little water if we need it. Okay, and then Irish moss. Okay, so we're going to blend this up. I put everything in, except the konjac and the Irish moss to thicken it. Okay, so we're going to see if we need water. We may not. We may. The cauliflower, again, gives it a lot of liquid. I'm going to push it down. Okay, now, it smells good. Now at this point, I can use whatever thickener I want. I'm going to use this Irish moss since I have plenty of it here, but I could use konjac or whatever, but I know that this is going to thicken it up quickly, and so I want to show you quickly how you can make a non-fermented cheese that you can have done pretty quickly and get put into the molds. So I'm going to pour, this is about a cup of Irish moss.
Wow.
Joe.
Irish.
Okay. And I'm gonna blend that up. It's gonna get thick, and then you have to quickly put it in the molds and put it in the fridge to hold it. Would you be able to get out those molds that we put in there? Let's see if they got firm yet.
Question about nutritional yeast.
Yeah.
Failure, does nutritional yeast with folic acid bother you as the one you mentioned has?
It has folate in it. It doesn't have folic acid.
Okay.
We checked with them. I don't see it in here. Yeah, this company doesn't use folic acid. They would use folate. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, no, I stay away from folic acid. Let's see if this is firm. Yeah, they're still not quite firmed, so we're gonna have to let them sit a little longer. Bummer. Hopefully we can get one of these to firm pretty quickly. Okay. Okay. We got two more. Got one more mold. I know I have another mold in the bottom drawer if you guys don't mind looking. So I'm going to use, this is a bigger mold. And we're going to look at this one, the zucchini cheese. It's kind of thick. We could probably add a little bit more thickener to it to make it thicker. This one looks more ready to go, so I'm going to do this one. You should be able to spoon it in to the mold. Wow, that's good. Actually, the Swiss cheese we usually don't do on a mold. We'll usually spread it and then cut it. So if you could get me one of the dehydrator trays, that'd be great. And for this one, I'm just going to add a little bit more of this konjac goo because that should help it quickly. And we'll make sure that you have the recipes if you're in there. Let that sit a few minutes. So for the Swiss, you want to lay it out on a baking tray. I'm choosing to do it here. I still see everything because I see we've gotten very cluttered here. This actually tastes really, really yummy. So what we're going to do is we're going to spread it out. Just do some of it to save time. You can spread it out. Because we're running out of time, I'm not going to do it fully, but you can cut it into the sizes that you want. Okay, like that. And then you can get a little cookie cutter or a lid, since it's Swiss cheese. Make little holes. Gives me a general idea. Cookie cutters work a little better, but you could just use your fingers and make little holes. Now you have Swiss cheese. Now if you wanted to, you could either put it in your refrigerator and let it set, Or you can put it in your dehydrator if you have one for about an hour and let it set. And that's Swiss cheese. This other one, let's see if it's ready, and I'll just show you that you don't have to do the fermentation if you don't like to. This is pretty thick. I'm going to take this, I'm going to spoon it into this mold. And now we have our zucchini hemp cheese. And again, this one will go in the refrigerator to sit. I was hoping that these would have been done, but it is usually an hour to 2 hours of setting before they are ready. So green cheese. I had a blue cheese recipe in here, but we're not going to get to that. All right, I'll put that in the fridge. Any questions before we hang it up? I know we went over time today, and there's still a lot more I wanted to teach, so overly ambitious. Maybe we'll do a cheese part 2. Any questions? Oh, let's go.
What was the brand of nutritional yeast? Okay,
Premier Yeast. I mean, there are other brands. That's the one I've chosen to use over the years because I trust the company.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Did you put the zucchini mixture in the fridge or just let it sit on the counter?
I just had them put it in the fridge. Yeah, fridge.
There's another fermenting. Can you leave it just on the counter?
Yeah, for fermentation, you can add a probiotic, or you could just do wild ferment to the counter. The probiotic will make it ferment faster, which is why I choose to use it. But I could take this mixture and I could do the same thing as I did with the other and put it in the cheesecloth and wrap it and put something heavy on it and let it sit. And it'll probably take more like 3 days.
Please do a cheese part 2. She'd love to learn how to make blue cheese.
Yeah, I have it here. It's basically you make one of these cheeses and put in some spirulina. There was a really recipe I found online and I posted it to one of our groups because somebody asked. But it was a process like making true vegan blue cheese with some kind of mold injection. And it was a 30-day process and you had to turn it. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So, yeah, just look it up if you Google vegan blue cheese.
Yeah, I mean, like, would that have benefits at all nutritionally?
I don't see it. Okay, guys, thanks for being here. Hope you found this helpful. See you next time.
I learned a
Vital
lot.
Health
Thank
Community.
you.
Oh, good. VitalHealthCommunity.com if you're not a member. So worth it. Even if you join us for the 2-month trial and then quit for $20, you're going to get all these recipes and the video, and another month and a whole bunch of other stuff. So VitalHealthCommunity.com. All right. Bye-bye now.